trick me, okay? Oh yes, I see live on YouTube. How exciting. Okay. So you want to give it a few more minutes and then we can.
Sure. Do you want me to remove the other top-down camera that you have still on here?
I can sign out.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? No, it helps me like see other stuff too, though.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. We'll just
Yeah,
leave it.
to see the questions. I forgot. No, yes, it's hot. This is rude. It's like I don't know. I did this, and I was like, why are we doing cookies? It's hot, you guys. Like this is
Having the oven on is like having
yeah, the heat on
yeah.
is disrespectful. Like it is not a best choice.
Yeah.
I don't know what the temperature is, but it I hate people. That's what the temperature is.
Oh no.
Okay. We can like one more minute. Okay. Now that we've got this trouble solved. Over there. Oh, our Fruit Loops back. That's real. Thank you for that. We eat Fruit Loops in this house. Bye. Bye, both. Okay. Oh, okay. You ready? You want to start?
Yeah, whenever you are ready.
Okay. Hello, everyone. In the Zoom, on the YouTube Live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Sicily. This is week 4 of our cooking class partnership with the OACC, with the Cooking Project, and my organization, Food Plus People. It is something that's very near and dear to my heart because although I'm in New York sweating from the heat and the humidity, I used to live in the Bay Area and teach cooking classes like live and in person to the OACC. So it is something that's very important to me through the Cooking Project, which is a nonprofit that provides cooking classes for people in all walks of life. Some of them are the first in their families to go to college. So it's teaching them really easy cooking techniques that are transitional through life and like how to save money, how to be really creative and excited with food. So this week we're going to talk about really cool food trends. And the food trend that we're going to talk about is making ice cream, because a lot of people have seen these write-ups about mason jar ice cream. I did test it out beforehand, so I do know that it works. I'm blown away. It actually works. It's like so great because you would never think that like it would actually work. So then I was thinking like, well, what goes good with ice cream? Cookies. So we're gonna make ice cream sandwiches today. So we're gonna get started with our cookie. So that way we could let it bake through the magic of television. I have some that are already baked, but it's honestly because it's hot in here and I want to get these cookies out of the way so I can turn this oven off, because even though I'm sweating, I am not losing weight and it's like really expensive. Okay, so we have 4.5 ounces of butter. If you see the screen that's overhead, we bought this Lando Lakes butter and it's really great. I'll show you now. Okay, so it comes in a pack like this and it's like 2 ounces and then it tells you that it's 4 tablespoons, and this is great. But you want to remember that when you buy butter, this is probably going to be more expensive because you're paying for the fact that somebody else cut it. So last week and the week before, we talked about how you can buy like a whole pound of butter that's not cut and then cut it and like save money essentially. But also the other thing that you want to keep in mind is buying unsalted butter, so that way you can control the salt, because when you buy it, you don't know how much salt is actually in the product. and also making sure that you're buying butter and not margarine, and the difference that can make when you're cooking or your cookies. But honestly, it still tastes good. Okay, so I opened 2 of the packs, so they're in here, and then I just have to open this one more. Normally, I would do this in a mixer. It goes a lot faster, and we would use the whisk, because it actually is going to help like whisk it, and when as it turns, it aerates the butter, so it adds a lot of butter, which makes for a like a fluffier cookie. And so as you're adding the air, you want it to be, it starts to turn lighter. You want it to still be some form of yellow, but like a pale yellow as you're doing it. And so we're gonna like kind of do that, but not really. Like my magical television cookies, we did that with. But these cookies, we're gonna do them in the bowl on the counter, because I don't want you to hear what a whisk sound like in a mixing bowl. That's like nails on a chalkboard. So we're gonna do that. So you want it to become pale, right? So if you want, we can switch the camera to the overhead camera so we can talk and do at the same time. So I'm dropping the butter into the bowl, and I'm gonna open my little baby one. And you also wanna make sure that you get like all the goodness, because when you measure the 4.5 ounces, you don't wanna cheat yourself. So I'm just gonna start to mash it a little bit, but I also let this sit out, so that way I could do this a little bit easier. So the heat has done like some of the work for me to achieve that. So it's not gonna be like as fluffy as I would have hoped, but it still will be fine. So when you're doing it in the mixer, right? You also wanna do this until it starts to become a little pale. You see how it's like a little more pliable, it's a little smeary. So I'm at like a good space because of the heat. So your recipe will say 6 ounces of sugar. So I'm gonna do 6 ounces. I'm gonna split the difference, right? So I'm gonna do 3 ounces of white sugar. And then I'm gonna go ahead and do 3 ounces. I'm gonna make sure that it's smashed a little bit, my sugar, because it's starting to get the moisture out of it. 3 ounces of like brown sugar. Brown sugar is a sweetener, but it helps add moisture. So it's gonna help our cookie be like chewy. So I'm just breaking up mine because I had a little bit of like bricks of brown sugar in mine. So I just wanna make sure that like, because I'm not doing it in the mixer, and that would help break it down for me. So I just have to make sure that it's mixed up. So I'm just gonna like smash it along the side. I'm also taking the sides and scooping and folding. And it's nice to kind of do it this way too, because if you don't have a mixer, or it's like the holidays and the mixer's full, this is like a cool way to learn how to do it. But okay, I don't know if you can see it, so I'll hold it up. So you can see like here, well, it's hard to see, but like the butter is starting to come together. So what happens is from the mixer, or from like whipping the butter in a sense, it creates air pockets, right? So then the sugar, as you're starting to mix it or like fold it and smash it the way we're doing right now, the sugar cuts the air pockets, and that helps make for a chewier cookie, because I like my cookies chewy. I don't love a hard cookie, but like if you want to, we'll talk about how it's like you want to split the difference in the baking process, you can do that. So see how it looks almost like cookie dough? That's what we want to get to, that consistency, right? So then I'm also going to add my salt, because I want to make sure I like the salty sweet thing. And this was a teaspoon of salt. I mean, an ounce of salt. So I also want to mix that in there really well. And so here we are with this. So then you can see I have this like, well, it's hard to see because they're all clear, but I have this like rando egg shiny container, because when I made it ahead of time, I'm gonna take my egg and crack it into something else first, just so I make sure that I don't get the shell. I'm gonna crack it in the big one, because if I gotta scoop the shell out and all that, and then I'll put it in. If it's clean, I can go in, but just to be safe, I'm not gonna go straight into my bowl in case, I'm on the struggle bus and something else happens. So let's also talk about salmonella. too. The salmonella is actually on the outside of the egg if you're dealing with the egg, because the chicken pushes out the egg. So you also want to be mindful to like not let the egg touch the raw ingredients. And now that I've done this, I'm like collecting my dirties, and I'm gonna go wash my hand before I touch my food. So then I'm gonna mix in my egg, and this is gonna make it like a little looser. It's a little slushier. When you hear it, it slops around a little bit. Your recipe says a teaspoon of vanilla, but I'm Black. We don't always grow up measuring stuff. Or if you've got a grandma who cooked, you know, they'll be like a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and you're like, what does that even mean? I always like to say, like with vanilla, especially if it's the darker one, or the beans, until you see it, right? Like that's my mentality with all of this. So now it's a little more wet. Your recipe calls for 7 ounces of bread flour. I've done this recipe a bunch of different times. I'm actually using all-purpose flour, but I use 7 ounces. I did measure it out because I'll show you. Like, the thing to be mindful of is the weight matters, and everyone kind of packs the cup different, right? So let's say I get a measuring cup and I press the cup really hard, like this is in a bag, but let's say I press it really hard along the sides, and then I like weigh it. That's 2.5, almost 2.5 ounces. But then let's say a person doesn't press so hard on the sides and they just kind of like scoop it out and level it out like this. They kind of look the same. I'm gonna tear this. And that's not even 2 ounces yet. So you see how you can like get into a little trouble with my definition of a cup versus your definition of a cup. So we always kind of want to measure it for the consistency. So that way, if you're like, my cookies came out a little runny, or mine came out too stiff and a little more cakey, that could be why. So I measured out my 7 ounces. I'm just gonna sprinkle a smidge of it in here. And then I'm gonna add the baking soda, which is also 1/8 of a teaspoon. I did all of that, and then I'm gonna go over the top with it just to make sure that it's like hiding in there, so I can help with the distribution. So I'm just gonna begin to like slowly fold it all together. And this is probably the part where it's gonna take a little bit more work, because the mixer is like gonna do the heavy lifting on this part for me.
Chef, if I didn't start with room temperature butter, is there a way I could have gotten it?
You said if you didn't start with room temperature butter, is there a way you could have gotten this?
Yeah.
Yes, you would have just had to keep working the butter. Like if you had a mixer, you could so typically, like if you had a mixer, you could let it mix for like 4 minutes. You would just have to use a little bit of elbow grease otherwise. Like you would just have to keep rubbing the butter like against the sides to loosen it up. It would definitely be more work, because you'd have to fight, like how I'm pressing down essentially is what you need to do, because you'd have to fight that butter to begin to like work it and make it a little more pliable and smoother. So see, it's starting to come together. It just takes work. So I am gonna bake these off just to, why not? Even though I made some in advance. So see, at first it looked like super suspect, like we were not going to get all of that flour mixed in there, but it works. It's a good recipe. It's a safe recipe. The one thing I do like about this recipe is it's a good base recipe. Like you can add, it does make a chewier cookie, so keep that in mind. But you could do spices in here, so it's a good, like, if you just want to do chocolate chips, you can add about, well, I don't like chocolate chips, but you can add like, 6 ounces of chocolate chips in here, or you could do like ginger and cinnamon if you wanted to do like a holiday spice cookie. So it's a good versatile base to a cookie. So I'm just gonna take this dough. And I have, this is a 1 ounce cookie scoop. You can do it by hand, but I'm gonna just take it, scrape it on the sides. And at least I know that my cookies will be uniform, and it's the same idea like with the knife cuts, right? Because then we know that it'll all be like even cooking time. So especially if you're doing like a dinner party or you just want to eat all of your cookies, some of them won't be undercooked, some of them won't be over, some of them won't burn. So that's what we're doing. And you can also, if you want to keep them their shape, you can do this and like stick it in the refrigerator or like the freezer. And then like for, 2 to 3 minutes, and then put them in the oven, and that will stop them from like spreading so much, which you'll see the other ones I kind of left out, which I'm okay with because we're going to make an ice cream sandwich. And they spread a lot. These will probably spread because I let my butter sit out for a good little while. So I'm going to put these in the oven. Probably like 10 to 12 minutes, because we're going to pull them a little early. Because the one thing I do with my cookies, I don't let them bake all the way in the oven, because as you're heating them, I don't know if you can see my face. Sorry, guys, because I know I'm talking and you're like overhead. As you're heating the cookies, the pan is hot, right? So you can actually pull the pan out earlier once you start to see them set and they have like a little color around the edge and you see that like little cook line on the cookie. You can pull them out of the oven and they will carry over, cook, because the pan is still hot, and you can let them sit and come down to room temperature on the pan. So you can even try this with like your regular recipe that you get somewhere. If it says bake the cookies for 12 minutes, I would pull them out at like 10 and let them finish cooking on the pan, because they're basically done, and they'll set on during the carryover process, and then it'll cool down, and then you'll have this really nice, hard on the outside, softer on the inside, chewier cookie. So now let's talk about our ice cream, right? Oh, I have to get my stuff out. So this mason jar ice cream thing, I'm not gonna lie, I was like hella skeptical, because I was like, this doesn't sound right at all. Like no parts of this sound right, but I guess it can. So this is a great recipe for my family, because I have a daughter who is allergic to egg whites. So if you do like a traditional, I also put this one in the freezer because I wanted to like test this out. I have a daughter who's allergic to egg whites. So cookies make me ice cream makes me really nervous because it can mess with her allergies. So we will take, in general, heavy cream, whip it to like a really good consistency, and add in all the flavors that we want to add in. And then we'll like freeze that. So it's almost like a soft serve ice cream. I'm setting the timer because I know that I get chatty and I'll forget. I'm gonna just set it for 12 minutes now. And so it was really interesting to me, this idea of this mason jar ice cream, right? Because I'm like, okay, well, I guess because if you take the whisk the same way we talk about the butter, and the more you whip the air into it, like essentially making whipped cream, is that what you're doing when you're shaking it in the container, right? So I made this recipe and it's in the freezer, and like they say to shake it for 5 minutes. I literally did it for 30 seconds and it worked. And I think I figured out why. But so I'm actually going to try it because my vessel was bigger. Like if I show you the other one, I used the same recipe in this size mason jar, and it was only like a cup to a cup. So it came out like soft serve ice cream. So I'm curious to see if when we do it this time, if it's actually going to come out the same way, because this is really small. So let me stick this one back into the freezer. I don't know who that man is. This is, he's looking for someone. Okay, so I'm gonna do liquid cup of 1 cup of heavy cream. I'm like just shy of a cup too. I'll put this one back in. So this is my 1 cup, which I'm not even sure, guys, Oh, it's a pint, so we'll be safe. So I'm gonna go 1 cup in here. This is gonna be tough. So I also realize this is already gonna take more work, right? And this is my powdered sugar. So this is 1/4 of a cup. So I'm gonna need essentially like 4 of these, but I'm packing it, pressing in it pretty tight. So I won't need 4. I definitely think this is gonna take longer to mix because as you can see, it's already like pretty full in here. And then I'm gonna take like a good pinch of salt. Your recipe says one teaspoon, but I like my stuff a little salty sometimes. I like the contrast. And then your recipe says 1 teaspoon of vanilla, right? Because this is a smaller vessel, I'm just gonna like try to stir that in there just a little bit. Help me out so that way it doesn't like act too much like a paste and get stuck. And I'm gonna do 1 more cup. I like powdered sugar. I know that some people put like granulated sugar, but it just makes for a smoother texture for me. So I'm gonna add this in there. I'm gonna put my lid on here and we'll see. I don't know what this is gonna turn out like, this one, but the other one was a breeze. I probably should have done that one and then had this one be my tester. So then you just shake it. I don't know if you get. So it says for about 5 minutes and you can hear it. It's like really slushy and like, I don't know why I'm holding it closer to the camera. It's like, but you can hear it. Oh, you can hear it. It's not as, honestly, the other one didn't take me this long. And I think you can also cheat the process and add more powdered sugar and work considerably less. But you can hear it, it's not as liquidy. I think I'm like almost there. I also wonder like what consistency do you want your ice cream? Yeah, you can, it's like not even. Okay, so let's see. Guys, freaking burnt. I'm gonna use a different spoon. That one has clump of powdered sugar on it. This is insane. It's like salsa ice cream. And then, there's good. You can freeze it. You could get, it tastes really good, you guys. I'm like blown away, but I'm like freaked out that this is like a thing. So if you wanted to be creative, you could flavor it. I have a friend who did the New York Times recipe and she put mangoes and like fruit in hers. You could also add like brown sugar, different things like that. So I'm gonna take this one and stick it in the freezer to let it set just a little bit longer for my household. I'm gonna actually pull out the other one while our cookies are baking. They're almost there actually. So this is my other one that went really fast because like it looks like legit ice cream. So these are my cookies that I made ahead of time. And I like really whip the butter and then I let the dough sit out so it wasn't cold. So that way they would spread and be a little flatter, but they're still like pretty chewy and like soft. They're not hard. So I'm gonna, and this is like a cool thing that you can do with, if you have kids, this is something that, cause I mean, this was simple enough, right? So you could do it with your kids. You could do it like if you're hanging with friends. This is something that like, even if you wanted to like do it as like a holiday party or just to hang, if you wanted to make the cookies in advance, like this is it's a great summertime thing, but who also doesn't love cookies and ice cream? And you can do it as a social thing. So I'm gonna try to show it, or you can see from up there. I'm gonna pull them. I also like wanna plate it really cute. So even though like they spread more, like this one broke, and my cookies are not the same size, I'm gonna put the bigger one on the bottom, right? So I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna put this cookie, I'm gonna swap and use this. Actually, I wanna use like this spoon. I wanna get a spoon that's got like a wide mouth so I can just scoop really well. Let's see, I'm gonna take it and just kind of smear it in there. I don't want to press like too much because I don't want it to like smear it too much, because I want it to, like, as I press down, to give me like not drooping over the sides, which this one is totally doing because I didn't make this in enough time. But see, it's like a really cute like ice cream sandwich, guys. Super fun, super easy. You can see my ice cream is like sliding on the side. But that's it. I'm gonna give this one to my kids. Hey, Marley, you wanna try it? You guys can split it. Yeah. But see, so if you're able to do your ice cream ahead of time, like if you look in here where it was separated, like this part, see how it's a little stiffer as opposed to like, and on the sides? Then like if I go to the middle, it's a little meltier, ice creamier. So, or you could eat them separate, or, you know, like, let's say you get the pieces. I don't know if you guys can see my face, you just see it up top. But like, let's say you get ice cream and you have, like me, I don't like the crunchy bits. I learned this from one of my partner's friends. We can drop the crunchy bits in the ice cream versus, like, people get very nervous about the cookie dough, like the raw cookie dough. We can just take these and like fold them in and have like this whole like crunchy, cakey thing that's happening with our ice cream. That's it. Do you guys have any questions? Oh, yeah, right? It looks super good. It's super fun. It's super easy. Like if you're entertaining adults, a nice little cocktail, if you're hanging with like kids and you want to do like a really fun kids party, this is a great thing to do that's like low cost, low mess, where like people can decorate. You can get food coloring and color the dough. You said, well, okay, I saw a question. I would store it in the freezer. So if you use a bit, like if you up the powdered sugar in the recipe, it becomes a bit thicker. But I would definitely do this ahead of time and like freeze it. But it's also like super, super hot in my apartment because I have the heat on from the oven, but you could probably totally do it and set it. So that was another reason that I put the other mason jar, because I just pulled this mason jar out of the cabinet. I put the other one in the freezer first. So once I dropped everything in there, you know, like a cocktail shaker, as I began to shake it, the cold liquid was also encased in like a cold vessel to help it like start to set a little faster. Someone said, have you ever tried this method for boozy ice cream? No, but guess what I'm gonna do? That, because this would be great. I mean, okay, so it also could be kind of tricky, and I would say add a little bit more powdered sugar, because it's the same thing like when you have a high alcohol, like really good vanilla. Sometimes if you put it in too soon, it can help it separate. So I would just be mindful of that. If you're dumping it out, like all of it in, like if you're using vodka or something like that, sometimes it can separate. So I would actually dump everything in, shake it a little bit, help it get to like a better consistency, and then add the alcohol in and finish shaking that in, and then freeze it. Would you like to try a cookie and ice cream? Huh? Yes, you do. Okay. So do you guys have any more questions? I'm gonna keep plating up cookies because I have 2 children and I gave one child the cookie and then the other child never. So yes, so I'm gonna make her an ice cream sandwich. You can also do this. This would be super cute if we did it. It's really hot in my apartment, so I have to be careful. It'd be super cute to do it, yeah, like with chocolate or with fruit, right? I was also gonna say, like, you could do it like a strawberry shortcake style. And that means even if like you want to put the fruit in the thing and like take a cookie like this and like crumble it over, or you could not have any rhyme or reason, like I'm also gonna do for my older child, like because I made her one and then I'm just gonna pour more on top. So that way it's like a layered situation that's happening. Here, Madison. Let me give you a fork or a spoon.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you have, they're almost done. I'm actually gonna turn off the oven and let those keep going. So yeah, like you could do it with chocolate, you could do it with fruit. You could do it with like fresh fruit would be really nice. Instead of like frozen fruit. So like figuring out like that's a good teaching moment for you to figure out like what's in season. You could try really interesting, like if you wanted a little like sweet and tangy, you could do like really good pickled things that are a little sweet. You could do that. So there's plenty of different ways you can do this. I was actually gonna do for the girls, they wanted something with lemon. So I was gonna zest the lemon into the ice cream and then juice the lemon into the cookie. So they had this like lemon thing, or you could do orange, and then it would kind of taste like a creamsicle. It's totally up to you to be clever. And this is like one of those things that's like fun enough that you can like play around with and figure out what you like and like how to incorporate those in. And all you're doing is dropping everything in and shaking it up. So, oh, you know what? Let's check our frozen one to see if it made a difference. With the jar already being frozen. Because that's what I wanted to see. If we froze the jar first, would that help with the process? I mean, granted, we just put this one in here, but it definitely does make a difference. It looks good. I mean, it looks like really good soft serve. So do you guys have any more questions? No? Well, I just want to say thank you. This is the last week of this series of classes, and I had so much fun with you guys, and I hope that you have enjoyed fresh cabbage mango salads, that you've enjoyed making bread, preserving lemons and other things, making really simple pastas that you could eat hot or cold and be versatile with. And then we've made a full meal essentially over these past 4 weeks. We've started with a salad and the bread, the pasta, it is carbs on listen. We started with the pasta, then we did the pasta, and now we finished it off with a nice little dessert with cookies. So thank you so much, guys. I so enjoyed it, and I hope to see you cooking soon. Okay, bye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. Goodbye.